This video is brought to you by Wahlap Technologies.
Arcade Heroes.
Greetings, it's Adam with ArcadeHeroes.com, and I've been slacking a bit this year on these news videos, and in part because of just the slow news that we've had since the middle of the summer. I've only really had Taiko no Tatsujin and Angry Birds Boom to discuss. And speaking of Angry Birds Boom, that is shipping now, and so you should start finding it out there at certain locations. I wouldn't be surprised if you have a big FEC like Dave & Buster's or Round 1 USA that is grabbing that. But it's November 2024, and while most of the news out there is being focused on the US election, well, there's other things happening in the world, and that includes the world of arcades. And it's pretty normal that in November, that's when we have most of our game announcements that will last us throughout a big chunk of 2025. And so, with that, I've got a lot of catching up to do. I'll try and make this quick if I can. But let's get to it. So first off, as you might have seen, and all this has been published on ArcadeHeroes.com. It's just I know not everybody may check that out on the regular. But we have a new game from Sega Amusements and 3Mindwave. 3Mindwave is a company based out of Hong Kong who has developed several games, mostly for Sega Amusements, including ATV Slam, Storm Rider 2, VR Agent, and now this, Alpha Ops VR Strike. And initially I was sent a photo of this on test over in the UK, but it was a very blurry photo, not as close either. But with this one, there is also a US test going on, I think in Illinois, that's definitely at a Dave & Buster's. As you can see in the background there, it says play games or something, and there's also the Dave & Buster's exclusive Star Trek title there, but where exactly in Illinois, I'm not sure. There's several Dave & Buster's there. Perhaps this was on test over at the Schaumburg, Illinois Dave & Buster's, and I was in Schaumburg just a few weeks ago for Pinball Expo, but I unfortunately was not able to make it over to the DMB there, where there's also Goldstorm Pirates on test, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Alpha Ops VR Strike, as you can tell by the name, is a VR-based game. But even from the back here, it was a little hard to tell exactly what type of VR game it might be, because you can see that it has chairs, it has an unusual setup, very different from VR Agent. And thanks to the anonymous tipster who sent me these photos, this is where we got a nice look at what it is exactly, where it is not a sequel to VR Agent as far as I know, but it uses certain ideas from it. Now the guns do look a bit lighter than the VR Agent guns, and so perhaps you can just hold it up to your face with one hand as opposed to two, although at the same time there does appear to be a button there on the front of the gun, so you probably still want to have two hands. But where you can sit down, perhaps that makes it easier to deal with as opposed to standing. And the seats do have motion. There's a stop motion button there, emergency stop, and a little bit more detail on the seats. I mean, these are nicer than your normal plastic seats, where it looks like they integrated some padding into them, so that was a nice touch. But this has shown up in Intergame Magazine's IAAPA preview, where it mentions some things about the levels. But I was also sent a video from this person who took these pictures here, and let's take a look at that. Now, the reason why I did not share this publicly was I could not get it to download. I had to do a screen capture sort of thing, and I wasn't able to get the audio either out of it. But yeah, since it was sent to me in Facebook Messenger, it just would not allow me to and to download that for some reason. Sometimes it does on that stuff, sometimes it doesn't. I guess because it was a video. But this didn't look to be played a lot by the person who was filming it. Now, you can see that there are certain elements there that have been in previous Sega arcade games, such as Rambo and some others where there's a timer above the enemies who are about to shoot you, so if you don't take them out in time, then they'll be able to hit you. And this is designed in Unreal Engine 5, and so even though this is kind of potato quality, you can still see that there's some really nice lighting details that look pretty realistic and such. So when it comes to the graphics, this should at least be able to present something that doesn't look like it's a mobile game. But once I get to IAAPA and get there with my 4K camera to take some footage of this, that should be better. This is almost done there. I have no idea how much this thing's going to cost. There's two 4K 86-inch TVs there to make up that entire image. Also, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot to be looking at. I mean, maybe it's just that on the TVs it doesn't do anything as far as stopping or moving the view around with where your VR headset is. It perhaps is just showing the straight-on gameplay, whereas in your headset you see something else. That's certainly possible. But yeah, that is on its way soon from Sega. Also, 3 Mindwave did the Apex Rebels racing game, which they released last year at IAAPA. Now, in the same post, we got an early preview of a game that is going to be testing only at Round 1 USA. No clue if this is going to be showing up anywhere else for anyone, although Ted, who's writing at he's wondering if there's a European distributor that might pick it up, and I guess it'd be kind of amusing where it's a Round 1 USA exclusive, but maybe there's a few locations out there that if it was released, say in the UK, that you buy it from the UK distributor and ship it back here. Probably make it a bit cost prohibitive. But this early photo that I was sent of it being set up wasn't clear how everything was going to be on it, but we did get this picture of the game here this morning, which shows that, well, there's a little bit more to it. And so as you can see, it has 2 screens. Now, this was designed as a kit to convert Bomberman arcades at Round 1 USA's. I've heard through the grapevine that Bomberman Arcade has bombed and doesn't do very well. But with this photo, we also learned that it's a 4-player game, and it appears to be a double-sided game. So one side would have P1, P2, and then this side P3, P4. But you can also see where it mentions defeat the enemy and go to the next stage. There's 3 stages, then a boss. But this is designed mainly for ticket redemption, so it'd be a redemption game. I do wonder if there might be an amusement-only mode. No clue, but you can see down there where it mentions win 500 tickets by defeating the boss. Also interesting that on to the right there is the new Castlevania Konami pusher, which I think had been mentioned on the blog previously from earlier in the year. But yeah, so would this one be at IAAPA? Probably not, unless Konami somehow, for some reason, decided that they were going to start doing things in the US again outside of just Round 1 USA. But as far as I'm aware, it's just that R1 USA exclusive. Now, from Bandai Namco Amusements, we have Goldstorm Pirates. Now, oddly enough, they have not said much about this game yet out west. Now, that will change this next week. The week of November 3rd, I guess. Yeah, that'd be tomorrow. So probably the 4th, 5th, maybe the 6th. I will be getting some exclusive information from Bandai Namco on Goldstorm Pirates. So I won't spend a whole lot of time here on that, other than to say that it apparently has been released in Japan, as there's already videos, as we posted on the Halloween News Bites. This is very poor quality. there, so I won't really waste your time on that. And somebody's even posted the ending credits and all that, so it's out there in Japan. Looks like we're gonna have to wait a little bit to get it here in the States, but it'll definitely be at IAAPA, as I was actually told last year, because we've known about this for more than a year now. But it's not going to be the only pirate-themed game at IAAPA. LAI Games revealed that they have a pirate-themed redemption game, but there is a Chinese company that developed their own kind of Dead Storm Pirates game called Skull of Shadow. Now, I've been waiting for a little bit more info on this before publishing it, so I guess this would be the publishing of it, but I'll have more information on this soon. Skull of Shadow by Ace Amusement is actually being sold in the United States through Amusement Source International, and they pick up a lot of product from China and different Chinese manufacturers. Ace Amusement, of course, has been making a pretty strong name for themselves as several different companies, LAI Games, Amusement Source International as mentioned, Coastal Amusements, and some others have grabbed their games and become the official distributors of that product within different territories like North America or over in Europe. There's a few different distributors that carry different games from them. But this one, from what I've seen so far, looks like a pretty well-crafted game. I mean, I'm going to have to see more of it in action. Most of the shots I've seen have been still shots. I mean, from this screenshot right here, it looks very high quality, but, you know, it could be running at 15 frames a second. But if it's running at 60, and Ace Amusement has been doing things really well, getting their act together and doing things with smooth frame rates, and so I'm hopeful on that. But they actually have 3 different cabinets for this one. So there's an environmental cabinet that you sit down inside of, there's this upright, and then there's a 3-player upright that has mounted guns instead of the free guns. And so I'm a little surprised by how hard they're pushing that, but they've known about Gold Storm Pirates being in the works because Bandai Namco started testing it out last year in 2023. But it looks like Ace Amusement decided they were going to get that out just in time for Namco's effort, and I assume it'll come in at a lower price. But it'll be interesting to see these 2 pirate games kind of battling it out. Battle of the Pirates at IAAPA and within arcades across the fruited plains in 2025. Now, I mentioned just a moment ago LAI Games, and they've got a lot of product coming to IAAPA. They have a much bigger booth than I've ever seen them do before. And that's because in addition to all the other games that they are producing and are going to be showcasing, which they introduced at last year's IAAPA and released to the market earlier this year, they've got 5 additional games, 3 of which are coin pushers. I was talking about this on the Arcade Heroes Discord server, and I mean, I don't know that why they're using this strategy of releasing so many games of the same style right on top of each other. I mean, not only will they be unveiling 3 coin pusher games at IAAPA, they already have, I think, 3 or 4 others that they're selling. If you go to their website right now, you can find Angry Birds Coin Crash and the Cosmic Tower that they released earlier this year, and the Dragon's Bane pusher, and I think there might be one other. Oh yeah, the Rick and Morty Blitz and Chits. And so it's like, that's a lot of coin pushers to be pushing out onto the market all at the same time, and I just can't imagine that works as a sales strategy, but maybe it does. Maybe there are certain buyers that won't touch one type and they go for another. I don't know, but it seems to me like out of all of them that's going to be coming along, the new arcade Mount Shebang is going to probably get the most attention, just because it's the only one out of the newer stuff that has a name to it. But amongst video games, they are going to introduce Kaiju Rampage at the show. And this was initially Monster Eye 3, which is, of course, a sequel in the Monster Eye series, but LAI decided to change the name on that. And this would also be from Wahlap, who you can see on the ad there. They are an Arcade Heroes advertiser, and so salute to them for supporting the site. But the game cabinet is virtually the same as the Monster i3 one, which you can see there. They just changed the name. But the game software as well should not really be any different than that, just localized. And this does use Unreal Engine 5 as well, and mounted gun, shooter, and all that. Let's take a quick look at the trailer. So kind of your typical guy and gal co-op shooting game where you work together to take out a bunch of mutant creatures and do other co-op activities like quick time events and such. But the game itself, the software itself, I should say, is designed by IGS, who's been around for a long time and done a lot of different games. And then you have these puzzles here, which is a nice touch, I think. Face off with the king of enormous monsters, not Godzilla. So it does have a motion sensor inside, which is essentially like the Kinect. Now, I guess sometimes maybe there's a bad connotation with Kinect just because of some of the early Kinect stuff that poisoned the well, but there are better sensors out there now than what had existed in the past, and so but this still employs that, which it did in Monster Eye 1 and 2, where sometimes you'd have to do things like paddle in the air to make your character swim, and as you saw there, you have to move your body a little bit to do that. But yeah, so that is coming through LAI Games. Another shooter that is going to be popping up at IAAPA is the 2-player version of Halo Fireteam Raven. Now, we initially saw a test where Raw Thrills had taken an Aliens Armageddon and reskinned it with Halo at the end of 2021. Now that we're at the end of 2024, it feels a little strange where it's like this game initially came out in 2018, and so almost 7 years later, we finally have a smaller route-friendly, small arcade-friendly version. It would have been nice to have seen this a little sooner. Now, I did get some pricing on this, the suggested retail price, which means it can vary by not just a few $100s, but possibly even more than $1,000, somewhere around there. $1,000 to $1,500 on the price is the MSRP is $12,000, and so I mean that is still a bit higher than where games like this would have been just several years ago, such as Aliens Armageddon. That one was only about, if I can recall correctly, I don't think 7,500. Maybe it was in like the 8,000 range. It's been a long time since Aliens. It's actually been 10 years. But like Terminator was around the 7,000 and 8,000 mark. There was a version of Aliens Armageddon with mounted guns on it that was smaller, like a 32-inch screen, which I think was 7,200. It might have been even cheaper than that. But either way, I mean, Halo has done pretty well out there over the years. And so if you just have a small location and can't fit one of the larger versions in there, this should do, and it's got a cool gun. There will be more from Raw Thrills at IAAPA, but I'm not going to know what it is until the 12th or so, and then I'll see what I'll be able to unveil at that time, and perhaps some of it will be under embargo until the week of IAAPA. Not sure. I did actually visit the Raw Thrills HQ in Skokie, Illinois, when I was there for Pinball Expo. That was one of the reasons why it was a little tough for me to go do other things. I really wanted to go visit Raw Thrills, and so I sat down with Eugene Jarvis and Andrew Eloff of the company and met a few others there. That was really nice. Thank you guys for having me there. But I did see a game that they were working on, but it was turned around, and they didn't want me to see it yet, and so I'm not sure what it is, other than it was a newer mounted gun game. But I don't know if that would be another VR one. The way it was set up was not set up exactly like a VR game. They were using a carcass from a different VR game, though, to do it from a Godzilla game. I wouldn't mind seeing a non-VR version of Godzilla set up. That would be my hope for it, but it could be something completely different. And that is something, too, that will be at IAAPA. All the chapters for Godzilla VR will be available so that you can check that out. In case you have that game, that update should be coming out pretty soon, if not already. Now, one last one for our mini IAAPA preview is exA-Arcadia. They just opened up pre-orders for Jitsu Squad featuring Samurai Pizza Cats, and so you can order that from your preferred exA-Arcadia distributor. This version has changed quite a bit. I have this version on the Nintendo. I have the game, on Nintendo Switch, but the exA-Arcadia version has more voice acting, including voice acting from Kappei Yamaguchi, who is the original voice of Yataro in Samurai Pizza Cats. But he's done a lot of other work. He's very famous. He's like in the top 50 of anime voice actors out there. But also the Samurai Pizza Cats is a character that's exclusive to the arcade version. And they've really tightened up the gameplay. So one of the complaints I have about the console version is that all of the enemies are very spongy. The guys that should be fodder are not, and sometimes they take a lot of hits to take out. Whereas in the arcade version, they've really tightened that up, and so that it feels a lot more like what you would expect out of an arcade game. And so the levels move along faster and everything, and it looks great too. But the input lag is reduced from what the console versions have, and so just overall, this is going to be the definitive version of the game there. And so that is shipping out very soon, and they also just started shipping out Fix8 EXA label. Now, I did see a list of games that are going to be announced here at Japan Amusement Expo, and these same games should be at IAAPA. The exact games are under embargo still. However, I just can say there are a few games on there that are some new EXA label games, and then there are some new original titles some new, I guess they could be called exA-Arcadia enhanced titles as well. There's things that people will know, some names that people will definitely know. Particularly one of them that's another beat-em-up game that comes with a name that anybody who grew up in the 80s like myself definitely will know, and so that should be at IAAPA. But there was also 2 TBAs on the list, and so that might be just because of licensing things, and so perhaps they might not be announced at Japan Amusement Expo, then they get announced at IAAPA. It'd be fun to see either way. And so, yeah, here that basically wraps up our miniature IAAPA 2024 preview. There's a lot of stuff coming. Like I said, please stay tuned to Arcade Heroes, not just the site, this channel, but also our social media, because it's very easy to miss something this time of year when it comes to new arcade releases, just because there's so much that comes out at all the same time, and so it's very, very easy for something to get lost within all that mass. But which of these games that I've brought up interest you the most? What do you hope to see at IAAPA? And then stay tuned. I will be doing a video with somebody from Betson. I guess not exactly next week from when I'm recording this, but the week before IAAPA. And then, of course, soon I will be doing another IAAPA, a full-blown IAAPA preview live stream, which will probably be like 3 or 4 hours, something like that. And I am going to be at the show all week long. It should be interesting and exciting. I guess one last thing that I should throw out now that I think about it is that, and we haven't been able to post about this yet because still waiting on some materials, but Alan 1 has begun shipping their Asteroids Recharged arcade machine. And so just the 2-player version, the 3-player deluxe and the 2-player pro model, as they're calling it, is going to be at IAAPA at their booth. The 3-player is also going to be at the AVS Companies booth. But AVS Companies is also going to have something else there, which I'll bring up in a different time. But it's very exciting show. Really looking forward to what's going to be there. Hopefully see a few of you there too, and hopefully I have enough time and that I don't lose my voice. So, well, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.